When my brother and I were kids, we spent a lot of time around my grandma's little pond out beside her house. It was just a natural dip in the ground that stayed full of water most of the time, long enough to grow cattails and attract all kinds of wildlife. Frogs, turtles, snakes, and some little fish, catfish, little bass, and brim. One of the most fascinating things for me as a kid was finding frog eggs. They'd be near the edge in the shallows around springtime. They were basically like a string of black pearls in a rubbery gelatinous casing, bundled up in a bunch. We didn't mess with them much, mostly, but we'd handle them, reach underneath, and hold them in our hands without lifting them out of the water. Imagine a baseball-sized bunch of black pearls that floated in this crystal clear protective gel. I guess the clear part was basically the same as an egg white. It's the protein that the embryos absorb as they grow. But the tiny black yolks that would become tadpoles, those were magical. This was like holding in your hand a tiny galaxy of black stars. The black dots were like BB size, very tiny. It was one of those amazing things that you see when the air is fresh and you smell that water from the pond, and the buttercup flowers, which were abundant around there, just filled the air with this amazing scent. And you knew that school was about to be out because summer was around the corner. Sometimes we'd come across the aftermath later in the season. I remember once specifically at the other edge of the pond where the slope of the ground was very gradual, the grass grew, and when it rained enough, the pond's footprint expanded over the cut grass. Once I saw all of these fresh hatched, I don't know what you call it, there's nothing to hatch out of, but I saw this huge group of these tiny little tadpoles, tiny BB-sized heads with tiny hair-like tails on each one, and they were in the shallow, like 1 inch deep, just carpeting the grass under the water. It was amazing. Hundreds of them, all sticking very close together. I stick my finger in because I'm a kid. I gotta see what they do, how they react, right? And they just readjust. The ones disturbed by my finger all swim around, so there's a blank spot where I disturbed them, and there's ripples of motion through the entire group as they all come to their new locations. Once, and I'm pretty sure we only did this once, we brought home a cluster of frogs' eggs we found. We put them in a little fishbowl and added an air rock to keep oxygen in the environment. And gradually, every day, those little black BB-shaped egg yolks started changing shape. And then you could see a split where now a tail is part of the curled up ball. And then the tail actually breaks out from the ball to become its own appendage. Gradually they get slightly bigger, and then they're not just eggs encompassed in a sack anymore. One day they're tadpoles swimming around. And we kept them longer. The tadpoles got bigger, then eventually, I don't remember time scale here, weeks, days, not sure, but the tadpoles got bigger, black turned more brownish, and at some point we could see nubs forming on the head. Actually, first we would see tiny feet then legs growing on either side of the tail. The tail got smaller and the legs got bigger. Then we'd see these little nubs further up on the tadpole's head, under the eyes. The nubs got bigger until it looked like a kid who couldn't find the arms on his sweater, so his elbows are poking around, awkwardly trying to poke through the material. And then they had arms. Such a gradual metamorphosis. I'll write sloppy since I can't spell. It's amazing. The bulbous, ball-looking tadpole head starts taking shape, an actual frog-shaped body starts to appear. And finally, they're bobtail frogs, and then the tail actually just disappears completely, and they hop away.